Hello, everyone. Kay Bradford here with Invertigo Dance Theater coming to you IG Live. And this is the beginning of our third artist talk for Walk the Walk. And stay tuned. I am going to patch the amazing D.Hill in. Looking for that cool guy. I see you. Oh, he's coming. All right, stay tuned. I'm waving back at you. And he's live. Hey, D.
Hello, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
I'm well, I'm well. Can you hear me well?
I think I hear you. Do you hear me?
Yes, absolutely.
Right on.
IG Live.
IG Live.
IG Live.
Hey, it's a new world. We're in a new place. New mediums. Some of them we
Here
had,
it is.
yeah, some of them we had before. Now we're just using them more.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
like that. Some of them we had before, now we're using them more. Come
Woo!
on, man. Let's not do our lyrical back and forth. You know, once we get started, that's a wrap.
We're,
Once we get started.
so let's just not start. Is that the deal?
Well, we can if they're ready.
I
Now,
mean,
if they're ready, we can start.
I know. We have to give people a warning first, I think.
Yeah. A disclaimer would be
You you cut out. What'd you say?
I said a disclaimer would be
A
nice.
disclaimer.
But sometimes it's organic, so why not
Right.
embrace it?
Sometimes let the train go. Laura Carlin, I see you. Laura says we are ready.
All right.
So first of all, let me just do a quick, like, to be formal for a second. Let me
Okay.
step back and just, first of all, say welcome to you, D.Hill, to our first IG Live Artist Talk for Walk the Walk. To anyone out there, we will give you a little bit of info about the project after our intros, and then we're going to dive into some conversation, and we'll give you some more info later. Yeah, yeah, D, I thought we could each just do like names and pronouns and maybe just like,
Okay.
elevator pitch of of who we are or why we're here if you want. Yeah,
Okay.
awesome. You want to start?
Well, I mean, I can say that my name is D.Hill. I'm a visual artist, and I am he, his, and him. And sometimes they, there, them, they, all over the place, us. So I believe in all of it, what my being has been over the last 12 years and my transition. So, yes, that's D.Hill.
Amazing. D Hill, thank you so much. Fantastic. Well, I am Kay Bradford. We share the lineage of the initial and the period. Yeah, Kay Bradford. I'm the creative engagement director of Invertigo Dance Theater, and the lead artist on Walk the Walk. And I am an artist out in the world in my own ways, in my own right. And yeah, my pronouns, well, my preferred pronoun is actually the ampersand. That is a whole different project for another day. But in the world that we live in, where grammar is, or punctuation is hard to say out loud, though Prince found out how to do it. I prefer they them. But same thing. It's like I just don't want to be cornered in one space. Like if you're gonna he me, please she me next. If you're gonna they me, you can them me. So yeah. So anyways, we are blessed at Invertigo, first of all, to be going strong in a time that is like no other in our current lives. And we are also blessed because we received this grant from the city of West Hollywood. So I want to say a big thanks for the Trans Arts Initiative grant and for seeing us. Yeah, and enabling this project to happen. And D, I feel also so blessed that you and I now have multiple collaborations going. And like butter, as I said earlier today, you just slid right on into this one. Yep. So Dee is the guest artist for our first Walk the Walk workshop. And let me just zoom out for a moment and say that this first seed grant that we got for the Trans Arts Initiative from WeHo really invited us to think larger. And so we're doing an initial workshop, but we have this hope to just like let it be a space of discovery because we did receive a second grant for a 2-year cycle. And so we're going to offer more workshops. So the project is really something, yeah, we're so grateful. And the project is really something that uh, will unfold and teach us and tell us what to be while we're in it, you know? And so there is the potential for it to turn into a show, but it's for the trans, non-binary, gender non-conforming, genderqueer, fill in the blanks, and intersex communities. This first workshop, because we are virtual, is open to people in LA, across SoCal, and across California, and in fact anywhere. And so that is really exciting. Again, one of the perks of this time. So we are really looking at our daily walk and thinking about, you know, symbolically, internally, externally, as a metaphor, as a practice, like our politics, whatever it is, whatever it means to you about what your walk is privately in your own world. And the second you step out, you know, out of your door. So we're exploring that in the workshop, and we will let this first workshop teach us what the next workshop shall be. And then we will see if a show or a piece or a series of pieces will come together. And Dee, I'm just so excited for you to be joining in and co-leading with me and Cody Brunel Potter, our dancer in residence, as we just, yeah, it's so amazing. So I just,
as we move, as we move.
as we move and let it move us, right? So I just wanted to like, first of all, say thank you for jumping on in with us, and also just ask you just initially, like, how are you feeling, and what are your first senses of being inside of this as we start off and had our first meeting this morning?
Well, you know, I think we had the perk for those that are coming on. We had the opportunity. So Kay and Cody and I had the opportunity to actually talk. And I was already excited today about getting my second vaccination. So I did post that. Um, I'm happy that that finally shift and changed politically for everybody to get it. So I'm happy about the administration that's pushing that right now. I'm not happy about what's going on when it comes to trans youth. And it's being signed into legislation when it comes to my state first. I'm like, what? So I'm not excited about that. So I post that. And I'm not happy about how trans youth are being eliminated from their peers and for being who they are and knowing the parents that know their child and allow them. You know, I was jealous for a long time. I was like, I wish my parents that didn't happen for. But you know what? I'm over it. I'm over it. I'm just happy that it's happening today, and that hurt me. That hurt me today. So it's a bittersweet. You know, like a dark chocolate. It's very tart when you have it, but you know, you just digest it and then you find something else that's to the palate, or you go back and figure out how you can make a better dark chocolate. So I am just like in that space today, but I am very happy to be invited to the conversation.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for being real. And I think, first of all, just to think about the context, right? First of all, we chose to do this on Transgender Day of Visibility, which is next Wednesday. And there's a lot of stuff going out there in the socials about Transgender Week of Visibility. There's so much to think about any of our marginalized communities, you know, Black History Month, like any of us, right? And then we have this year, right, inside of the pandemic, we have had all of these, you know, intense moments of violence happen, you know, largely around race. Definitely trans folks, especially BIPOC trans women, continue to be targeted and killed, right? So it is very real. So when we have these days, right, we have these weeks or months, like it's great to have them, right? But you know, here you are. Thank you for being real about like your day and what you're holding today. And so I think, you know, in this workshop this morning, I know we talked about this and just want to call it into this space, is like, we want to hold the realities that are ongoing, that are in our lives all the time. And that's a combination of, risk and violence, or institutional oppressions, or sometimes victories, as well as just our what our gifts or joys are that we also bring to the day. So yeah, I just wanted to see if you wanted to share a little bit about that combination that we're
Yeah,
hoping to invoke in the workshop.
absolutely. And because that's what it's all about, is opening up a conversation, right? Whether you know it or not, what you know or not, what do you feel or not feel? Like it's just like bringing it all together. And I'm hoping with the workshop next week that we can all have that voice together,
Mm.
right? Can all move together in unison. This is something that I also push whenever I'm doing my ministry as a deacon of my church. This is something I'm always listening to the song, and in this song, it's always talking about you can't do it alone.
Mm.
We were built individually to come into this earth, but we weren't built to exist by ourselves on this earth. So you have to understand that you have to get with a group or a unit or some type of family or village. If you want to, that's why we have problems when we go through puberty. We want to be accepted. We want to be accepted because we are built to be a part of a group, a
Mm.
part of a unit. And so within that perfecting church, it's all about finding the right group that fits you, whoever your identity is. And then you start, don't let me go to sports. Then you
Uh-oh.
start to plant seeds and you start moving around as a group and finding, you start moving around and traveling and realizing that you weren't the only group. You
Mm.
can all get together. And then maybe there's something that you have that the other one didn't. And then you can start sharing. And that's what it's about,
Mm.
sharing. So I'm hoping for the workshop we all can have our voice and have our uniqueness and bring it all together as one accord, one perfecting church, one unity, one village, whatever that is.
One.
Right? I'm like, whatever we create, that's going to be the fun part.
Yeah, and the fact that we don't know yet, right? Like, I love that.
Yeah, we don't know.
Yeah, there's no way to know what it's
And
going to be like till we're there.
so we're just, and as we talk about walk the walk, we're gonna walk the walk together. And we all, some pigeon toed, some buckled knees, some bad leg, somebody has a good one. But we're gonna do it together, and that's the fun part. Nobody has a disability. Nobody has something that would hinder us together. And
Mm.
that's what I'm hoping we have a takeaway in that workshop on next week.
Yeah, Dee, I love the way you said to move in unison, right? And unison is different than being the same, right? So, like, we have kinship. You and I have kinship. You, Cody, and I hopped on. It's the first time today that the three of us have been on together, and immediately there's kinship, right? But sameness and moving in unison are two different things, right? And I think often in the world, people, are like, unity, it means, like, we don't want to be one thing, and we are not. Like, let's just be real. Like, the trans, non-binary, intersex, gender
Right,
non-conforming community is not one thing. We are
right.
so many snowflakes, and we have so many different things that we all face every day. We have so many different gifts we have to call upon, but yeah, to move in unison. And I'm feel that we already had that dance going, the three of us. And so I am very excited. I do want to just call out for a moment and say that we've had a beautiful response from folks, because we did a call out for applications. And I do want to just like say, folks who are out there, that we do have a few spots left. So if you feel the instinct to join us now or by the end of our conversation, please do. The link is in the bio, and we are still taking applications. The workshop again is next Wednesday, March 31st, and uh, yeah, so I think we have an incredible group of people who are assembling, of many different experiences, people from around California and out of state as well, and the fact that we all will be making something together and finding some unison, I think is a lot of it. So I'm glad you called that out.
I'm I'm excited, Kay, about this. This is gonna be amazing for us to put our ideas together, and of course, for people to come together and have a space, right? I think we were talking earlier about our personal stories, like where we couldn't find those spaces or didn't have that. And so I think this is great that the place is created for us to occupy.
Mm, yeah, and to
And,
like occupy with each other and like maybe more fully occupy ourselves, right? So, uh, yeah, we will let each of us come to the solo and collective creation in the ways that work the best for us. And I know that we talked a lot about like we're hoping to call in vulnerability. So the three of us, Cody and Dee and myself, co-facilitating, will step in from a vulnerable place of where we are all at, what our life stories are, what our visions are, what our struggles are, and we are hoping to call open a braver and vulnerable space with everyone, right? Um, so yeah, so I guess thinking about that, do you have anything you want to share about when you think about your daily walk as a human being and the different matrix of your cultures and identities and being trans? Is there anything like a moment or even just something that really stands out to you about what that means to like be in your daily walk?
you know, that's a challenging question. I think it's going to be a challenging question for all that participate
Mm-hmm.
in the one next week. But what I find, if I think about it and sit with it for a little while, I will say that it's my blackness. I deal with my blackness first before I deal with my trans
Mm-hmm.
component, because I'm now considered a black man as I move around and navigate. And so I think about my blackness first, then my trans. And again, it's an intersectionality component because all of us have different, ideas of our identity. There's different facets of our identities. Um, when I walk with confidence because I love myself.
Mm.
So every day when I walk out the door, and it started on January 21st, 2013, I walked out the door and it was a walk of love. So I love myself, but I was also nervous. So I walk with love and nervousness sometimes because people will look at it and people meaning, I don't know, the other who is not me, will look at it as though I am this confident person, but they don't know who I am. The kids in the beginning of my transition, my gender transition, because I've had many transitions, by the way, but my gender transition, the kids in the grocery store, at Target, would look at me because
Mm.
they couldn't figure me out. And
Mm.
I said, "Why are you looking like that?" And I said, "Why you look like?" I said, "There's a reason why you're looking at me like that, because you can't figure out my identity."
Mm-hmm.
But I had such love for myself, such confidence with myself that, like, who is this person?
Mm.
And I've always connected with children for my entire life. I've always connected with children. It's like, "Oh, D, you're going to be a great parent." I'm like, "I don't want kids." But it was something that I've always carried with me in my spirit
Mm.
to connect with kids, and that's called honesty and purity. Children will tell you right away in their most honest state, "I don't like that. I like this. What is this?" It's confusing. Like, children will do that, and that's what I embrace, children's responses. But going back to what the walk is, it's walking in love, but also walking in confidence
Mm.
and nervousness, because I'm nervous how people are responding to me because of how much I love myself. And they're like, "Wait a minute, what's going on with that person?"
Mm.
Not everybody loves themselves. And I had to just let that go. Like, that's everybody else's journey, but I'm going to stay on my journey, on my path, and walk my walk
Mm.
in, in love. And that's how I'm able to navigate, uh, really within the last, wow, oh my gosh, that was 2013. What,
Get
how many years has it been?
you.
So,
You're getting up there,
Yeah, so
D.
I've been walking my walk of love and nervousness for the last 12 years. So,
Mm.
and I'm ready to keep walking it and encouraging others to walk in their walk as well. So that's why this was fantastic for the title and fantastic as a punch.
I'm so glad. And I really relate to that, the like walking with confidence and nervousness, right? And, the choice to be in a practice of like a walk of self-love, which, for a lot of us, given our different identities and cultures, is can be a challenge, right? And there's a lot outside of us that pressures against that or wants to act against it. So yeah, and also what you shared about kids, right? I mean, that's been a big part of my daily walk too, especially in times when more people are out in public and we're in the world more, but like kids are it. Like they are the ones that will be like, why do you have that on your chin? Like, where did you get that? My favorite one
Mhm.
was I usually will say it's my unicorn horn. It's just on my chin. And and one kid,
I love it.
and with kids, like you say something to them and then they're like, okay, cool. And then go on, right? It's just so different.
Yeah.
Like the lack of filter is so refreshing. One of my favorite moments
Yes.
was when I said that to a kid and she turned to me and she said, where can I get one? And I was just like,
Yeah.
right?
I'm like,
I
we're gonna
know,
do this.
I know, right? So beautiful. So, and I think that like as adults, unfortunately, we develop more and more filters and armors and ways of maneuvering and doing things. And we can be free too in ways, but a lot gets added on, right? And so, I mean, one of my real hopes for this first workshop that I think is going to be really intimate is everyone's coming like with all these different elements that we hold in ourselves and experiences. And some people might relate to moving and dancing and some people are like, no, I am not a mover. And like regardless of your art forms, like how we can come to this moment and like take down some of those filters and armors and like be in a space where we're not going to assume we're all safe with each other, but we are building something together and we can create a vulnerability that allows us maybe like as the tiny community that we are. I mean, we are mighty and we are fierce, but there are not a ton of us in the world, right? And so it feels like I'm feeling more and more every day as we get closer to this workshop. It is sacred space we are creating. We don't, it is new that we get to have more and more spaces of coming together as trans, non-binary, intersex folks. Like it is a gift. I'm so grateful to Invertigo Dance Theater, to the artistic director Laura Carlin, for all of the
Yes.
support and
This is,
love and
woo,
vision.
look at
Yeah.
that. This is great. Gosh, I was thinking about that, Kay. Once we end our call and once I finish work, and then I got a vaccination, the day's been going. But I was thinking about how our story, even though it exists, nobody it's invisible. People really can't get to it.
Mm,
It's not accessible. And I'm like, this is why I'm so motivated to finish my documentary, right? As a Black trans man, because even though people are like, yes, when I say people, I mean people that are not trans or non-trans or are not familiar with the community or not familiar with the term. It's so hard to think about it as, wow, there really is no accessible documentary to get a hold of,
mm,
or a, a pamphlet or a brochure, or when you go online and try to look. Like when I was looking, literally looking, like, what is this? After I was talking with my mentor, who's a white trans woman, I wanted to find a story about me.
mm.
Really hard. And so just that alone, I'm trying my best to finish up my projects and collaborate wherever I can. So that way it helps other young people or even adults, because I transitioned as an adult. I
Hmm.
transitioned in my 30s. So I want to make sure that we are out there to tell our story and to show that there is support. There are ways to go about living your life comfortably walking in love, but walking in nervousness, but you can do it. And that's why I'm like, wow, these moments where we have organizations that have the support for us to do this is love.
Mm,
That's the greatest thing ever. And so that's why I do what I do. That's what you do, and of course, the more we can work together and build up this community and help plant seeds for other communities to get started and have those ideas in their regions, the better.
mm,
Because it's very much a struggle for me as an adult to get support.
totally. Yeah, I love that, the idea of a seed, right? So first of all, yeah, I'm with you. I want to talk outside of here about supporting you on that project and hearing more about it. Do you want to share just a little bit more about it here, just so we can get a little bit of a taste, or a sneak preview, or just whatever you might want to share, so people can know what you're
Well,
up to?
yeah, so the documentary is called Waking Up in New Skin. And that piece is about me finding support here in Los Angeles and then going back to my home where I was born and raised, Little Rock, Arkansas. So I was going back and forth
Mm,
um, over the years since I was, oh my gosh, because my parents weren't married. Um, so I would have to travel back and forth. And as an adult, I find it interesting when I decided to do this amazing new chapter of my life and find happiness. I thought it would be interesting to document it, but also the changes, who was going to support me, who was not going to support me. So the whole piece, the documentary is really, I want to call it an optimistic piece,
mm,
but it's really showing you that you'll lose some people along your journey and you'll gain.
mm.
So you'll be fine. At the end of the day, you'll be fine. So I'm excited to finish it. I'm hoping because COVID hit, I was going to go back. So I'm not flying and I'm not going back to Little Rock, Arkansas. Woo!
Mm,
Especially after today. I don't know. I'm just, there's some things I feel um, at the right time I can go back,
mm,
or maybe I'll film the Zoom version of it, but I really don't want to do that. I really want to carry the film out the way I started. The project, I started that project back in 2012. So you actually see me starting, and then you see me where I am today.
mm,
And it is very interesting for me as an artist to look at the documentary because I can see the difference in my face. I can hear my voice change. I can see mannerisms of it's me, but I can see why people are confused now
mm.
when it comes people meaning my family and friends that had grew up with me. So I'm like, well, it's still you, but
Yeah.
and so they're dealing with
That but,
the gender that but
but,
part.
yeah.
So that's the biggest project, and then of course, remove the news by all means necessary. Remove the news by all means necessary is a video piece that I just did. I was working on that project last year, and I wanted to share that particular piece because I was in fear. I was just in. How can I say this? As today, I was just furious about how many trans bodies were eliminated, assassinated, murdered, removed, and erased
Mm,
during a time of lockdown, during a time of a pandemic where you're not supposed to be out and about.
mm,
So I thought that was very interesting, but also how Black men have also been in this conversation over and over and over and over again. So the removing of the news by all means necessary is a piece that I am releasing now and sharing, but I want people to take away that it's not just Black folk that are dealing with the news. We are, as a people, dealing with the news that's being created, and we have to figure out how to remove it and get rid of it. It will come back, but you have to figure out how to get rid of it. So,
mm.
yeah.
Dee, I was there, and it was such a powerful night. And I can only imagine what it's going to be like when you do that piece in person, you know,
So yes,
because
yeah.
on the screen, when we all weren't in the space together in the live flesh, it was already, it was already so just, the cells, in the body are so heightened for me in seeing it. And yeah, I mean, and also so timely, right? The 400 plus years of slavery is super brutal. And, the big wake up of last spring, it's called out as George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, which, of course, their stories are horrific and their lives are not in vain, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah,
there were Black, trans folks also being killed at the same time. And it is a long, long line. And, so the whole notion of like this time, it's real that it's this time, but really it's that it's more hyper visible than it's been before. And by that we mean to white folks especially, right? And to mainstream
right.
culture and in media, because it's been happening for more than 400 years. So that noose
Exactly.
is the horrific symbol, one of the top horrific symbols of America, right?
Right.
And yeah, it's very generous of you to say, hey, let's think about it in broader terms as well. But yeah, that is, I think, thinking about how so many people are coming to voice, how there's a big focus on amplifying and lifting people up right now. Like, it is real that the turns that we have in these moments of public violence, like it does mean that people turn and pay attention. Sometimes people who weren't paying attention before, and sometimes it's institutionally, right? And we are, you know,
Right.
having more of a spotlight now than maybe ever
Mhm.
before, and that is real. And so for your piece, for example, for that piece to come forward now, and I think especially when you get to do it live too, is so important.
Yeah. I can't wait to do it live because there's one thing about the screen that I do not like, and it's called distance.
Right.
And,
Me too, honey. Me
and
too. I can't wait to hug you.
you need to, yeah, I'm like, this distance is killer.
Yeah.
And it's after a while, it just doesn't work when it comes to let me get this point across.
Mm,
And this is what I did with my thesis when I was doing my grad study. I said, you know what, the most strong and effective visual art medium is performance art.
mm.
Somebody could argue me down if they want to.
It's not
That's
gonna be me.
that's just nice. It's going to be just a nice little conversation that we'll have. But people have to change their ways. And the only way that you can really change your ways is if you actually have an experience before your very eyes. And that was the whole argument of how strong performance art can shift the understanding of what the black body means in a predominantly white space. So that was my whole argument, and it's still there. And I keep it going, and I've been doing it for years, and I didn't realize it, but that's something that I wish to share, and then realize that I'm not the only one.
Mm.
Now when I see this hate with Asians, I'm like, those are my people. I'm 5% Asian. You know what? This is a problematic that's coming to the highlight
Hmm.
of dealing with people of color, people that are not white, or the white American construct, or white supremacy, or all the privileges that comes with how the United States was built, what was going on in the western part of Europe. All of this is coming to a full head of the root problem.
100%. Yeah.
So now we are the people that exist years, centuries later. We can do something different.
Hmm.
We don't have to do what our parents did. We don't have to do what our grandparents did. And that is the importance of visual arts. That's the importance of us utilizing this media, not for spreading hate, but spreading knowledge and love. So that way we don't do this in the street, that we don't do this in each state. It's already raised, Tennessee already signed up for it too.
Mm.
Tennessee governed the same thing.
Yeah.
So things, it spreads like wildfire. So why don't we spread love like wildfire? Let's spread knowledge like wildfire, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And thank you for bringing up last week. I feel like, Atlanta and everyone holding out space for the API communities. And like, it's another moment of like, one day horrific stuff happens and then all the attention is there, right? And I think the important thing is like we see that we are in a moment of like the underbelly rearing its head, right? And as soon as, you know, white supremacy and, you know, the epicenter of cis white patriarchy kind of is threatened by being upended or imploded or turned inside out, right? That violence comes
Hmm.
out and it is real, right? And so, you know, to kind of to face that and then hold, you know, tenderness and vigilance with each other as we go forward, you know, and to face it and be real about it, but also as you're saying, it's like hold the love and also like how do we, you know, how do we not cave to that? How do we literally continue to like undo the foundations and build a new world, right? So I hope we'll get to do a bit of that with the beautiful crew that's assembling for Walk the Walk,
It's piece by piece, you
piece
know,
by
what they
piece.
say, baby steps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
yeah, totally, for sure. Yeah, well, I guess uh, another question I have as we begin to wind down, although I don't want to wind down with you, Dee. Um,
we can
um,
keep going.
yeah,
We can keep going, Kay. They want to stay with us.
that's right. That's right. There's still people here, so you know we can just talk all night.
If they want to stay with us.
Yeah, I was on a friend's IG live last night, and it was amazing. I went for an hour and a half, and it was a very powerful moment of thinking back about last week with Atlanta, and how do we say no? We're not going to cave to that fear and that hate, right? So, um, yeah, you know, actually, I just want to pause. Speaking of that, and say one thing that, like, you know, with your piece, removing the noose by any means necessary. One of the things that was most powerful to me, Dee, is the way that you were a performing artist, a moving live body, right? But your movements were so minimal. And the minimalism of that to me was super powerful because you don't have to do a lot. You said a lot with very little movement. And I think, you know, just that choice, like I just felt so much presence in you by the slowness of the movement of trying to remove it, right? Yeah, so I don't know if you want to share it all, but if there's anything you want to share about like that choice or like what it was to be in your body to hold that space, because that is an unreal thing to witness, right? From the outside. So
Yeah. It was, well, like how I usually approach my performance work, I have a out of body experience basically, right? I'm no longer D.Hill.
mm,
It really feels that way whenever I do performance. And so when I decided to put that noose on, I had to take a deep breath and put it on
yeah.
because I was putting on a lot in that. What that noose signified was heavy. And so even though I was doing that in the studio by myself, it felt like I was putting a lot on. And the first thing that came to my mind was my parents.
Mm.
Right. So I knew that my mom or my dad would see it. And
And they were there,
yeah, they were
right? Yeah.
there. Yeah, they were there. And, you know, as my mom mentioned in the text, in the chat, it's like, ooh, I'm with Bonnie. I don't want to see that around my baby Nick.
Yeah.
I could hear her, you know, but it was one of those moments of the moment the performance started, because I do it all in one take. So the moment the performance starts, I remove myself. I'm no longer D.Hill
Mm.
doing it. It's so I'm going into the representation of what I'm trying to articulate or what the message is. So I went into that performance and I put it on, and um, it really did feel like I had a lot of weight on my
Mm.
shoulders, and I wanted to get out of it. So I did it 3 times. So I know that my friend, boss, and chair of the department. She said, "Dee, did you hang yourself in there?" I was like,
Mm.
I did not hang myself. If I hung myself, we wouldn't be talking right
Right.
now.
Yeah.
But I did feel that intense gagging and that just wanting to get out. And I said, I'm not going to go too fast because I know you can't get out of this as fast as you think.
Right.
And that's why I slowed it down. And then I slowed it down even more as a filmmaker. I slowed it down even more in Adobe Premiere.
Mm.
So,
Oh, you did. I was wondering. Yeah.
mhm,
I mean, I think in a way, like to me as a white person, a white ally, a white accomplice, like witnessing that slowness is the reality, right? That's how long it is taking, right?
it's a
And
slow process.
yeah, and yet you still were removing, right? You still were removing, but it was
Mhm,
that slowness, the performance of that slowness, in terms of white supremacy, and this place we are in of even more visibly and ardently working to dismantle it. I mean, white supremacy has been called out more in the last, I don't know, what is it, 9 months? 9 months than ever before, maybe.
and I'm happy. I'm like, finally, finally. But I'm like, we've been here
We've
before
been here so
because we
many
had
times.
Obama.
Oh, yeah.
We've been here so many times. Like it came out in 2008. Now it's back in 2020. I mean, come on, like it
Yeah.
keeps coming back. We did it, and that's why I did. That's why I went back to Malcolm X, because in the Black community, we're wondering why are we seeing the same civil rights that was pushed forward in the 50s and the 60s? Why are we having it
Mm-hmm.
today?
Yeah. It's the
Why are we
spiral.
having this conversation here?
Right.
And I'm like, wow, this is unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I picked his piece, and of course, I've always connected with his oration and his writing, and that's what I shared that night. I've always connected with his work back in the '90s, so it just came full circle as an
Mm.
artist to bring him in, and I think it's an honor to collaborate with him in my work.
Yeah.
So
Reading his autobiography also in the 90s was such a pivotal moment for me around my anti-racism consciousness too. And yeah, anyways, I'm so grateful for you and that work and support you in
thank
it
you.
coming even more fully into the world. And I see and recognize how much that takes for you to hold that. So yeah, I mean, thinking about in relation to trans bodies and non-binary bodies and communities and what we're doing with this project, you know, there's a way that's, it's also our time. We are coming together more. We're developing more language, more spaces. Still working on the resources, but we're getting more resources. This is an example of one. And, the world is still catching up, but there is more visibility, right? And here we are doing this project where we'll think about for each of us what are the ways that we feel visible in the world? How do we feel invisible? What shadows do we carry around with us? What do we want to cultivate more of? What do we want to let go of? But it is a time, right, where we are we are getting to create more formations and more spaces. And so I just wanted to see if you had any thoughts about that, about, this moment of more visibility in the world in media and representations of our bodies and our cultures, in stories and TV and movies and plays and all the things. And you're one of the producers of it, and I am too. But yeah, yeah. So how you feeling about that?
I'm feeling inspired, right? Because there's still a lot of work to do. So just like any culture or subculture or any, how can I say this? Because I'm usually upset about how trans bodies and trans individuals are being represented for a short period of time, and
Mm,
then it goes quiet and
yep.
then it comes back. And it's like this. I'm trying my best not to use the word trend, but we tokenize. We've been tokenized quite a bit, And whenever I see that we're now hitting some key players in legislation and key players that are looking at us in a more governing way, I feel inspired.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really interested, and it's sad to say this, but I'm not really interested if we get a new role. Um, I am happy that we have those platforms to, because that sometimes is the best way certain people can have access to, like, oh, or those that are like ourselves that didn't even know that you could be trans.
Mm.
Um, Probably their first time seeing it on the screen is like, wait a minute, that's me.
Mm.
I think, you know. So I appreciate all of media for, allowing the conversation to spread in that direction. But I really want legislation.
Mm.
I really want it in government, because that's when it'll feel much better that I can get married. It'll feel better that I can have kids or I can adopt. It'll feel better that I'll be respected as the dean of this institution. Like, because this is, if we get in that way,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like now I'm happy.
Let me look around. Let me
But for
look
right
around.
now, but for right now, but for right now, I'm just inspired,
Right.
and I'm happy and proud. I'm inspired, and I appreciate. But I'm gonna be happy
Mm-hmm.
when we get a chance to be a part of the governance, a part of the legislational system with all of us. And it's just not even us. That's the hard part to digest. So, you know, that's when I'll be happy.
Yeah. Whoa. Whoa.
I'm like, that's when I'll be happy. Don't make me get upset,
Right.
Joy.
I, s- I see Dave Mack. I see Dave Mack saying yes. So, and Rosa too. We got a thumbs up from Rosa. Yeah, Rosa, who's at
Yeah,
the
you better
table.
say about who's at the table.
Right.
I ministered this about 3 weeks ago because everybody was getting excited about the stimulus, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's great and everything. And it was over the holidays. That's what it was too. Over Christmas, I said, well, it's great to open up your table and let people sit there and feed each other.
Mm.
But there are certain people that shouldn't have a certain plate to eat. And it's not because you're being mean, it's just to hold them accountable for why they have a different plate from all the other kings and queens at the table. And I just want to make sure that we all understand that there's a way to sit at a table and all embrace the feast
Mm.
of abundance, the feast off of what we've all been given. But your plate should look mighty different if you were not being obedient and doing exactly what everybody else was doing in that unison. So I can't wait to hold a lot of the politicians, a lot of activists, because there's some activists,
Mm-hmm.
advocates out there that's also messy, hold them accountable for not carrying over what needs to be acknowledged and established when it comes to us,
Mm.
trans transgender people. Even in the LBGQT 50, S 52, we're gonna keep going.
Yep.
People get mad at me for that, but I'm not overlooking all of the amazing individuals that fought for us during the 20s, during the 30s, about being queer. But I am fighting right now to make sure that we all are understanding that there's certain people, certain identities, specifically transgender, are being overlooked.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just about the lesbian, it's not just about the gay, it's not just about the queer, it's not about the selves, it's all of us. So when we start getting messy like that, it starts to hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to create more of a space for us to feel like we're all accepted in our own ways of identifying who we are,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's why it's hard for me to say I'm happy with where we're going. No, I'm inspired because I'm gonna keep going because there's way too much work to do,
Way too much. Yeah.
and it seems like we keep going backwards, and that's a problematic to me in my eyes. So I want to keep doing the work that I'm doing. That's why I want to keep pushing to have more Black trans male stories I love my mentor. She's doing really great. Love her. But I'm tired of hearing, I hate to say this, but I'm tired of hearing about white trans women. I want to talk about black trans men. It's like
Go
I'm
D.
bursting out of my seams.
Yeah.
I'm bursting out of my seams. But, this is the thing. Women come first because of how patriarchy works,
Mm-hmm.
because of how badly women are being treated and disrespected. And I'm still, this whole craziness about the pay rate. Why are we still talking about the 82 cents to the dollar?
Oh
I mean,
my
all of
God.
this is so it's just all of it's going. So I'm like, okay, we all have to unite, get it together, and say, this, we are people. We are human beings. We have different identities. So what? But we can do this together. So the moment we start changing that, then I'll be it.
Right.
So for right now, I'm inspired.
Right. I know. And like it is amazing that we're in a time where we have like first, trans cabinet member, first, trans
Yes, yes,
legislators, like, it is
yeah, we're
happening,
getting there.
but
We're
it's
getting there.
firsts are good. Firsts are good. They are the markers,
We're so
right?
good.
Like, I mean, you think back to the 90s and when like gay all of a sudden was like getting the eyes, right?
Right.
And now here we are with trans and non-binary cultures getting the eyes, getting the look, right?
Yes,
And
yes, yes.
but like so the firsts are important, right? Thank you. And let's get going. Like one, we're talking about, okay, one, well, right, same thing with like the first Native American cabinet member, right?
Yes, yes,
I mean, I don't know how that took so long, but anyway, so it's like, right, whether it's inside of, media representation, legislation, et cetera. But obviously, and I hear you, like, the governance is super real. Like it's, all of that media change in the 90s for gay folks, like did lead to legislation that has helped. Is there not tons more to do? Yes, there is, right? But now, our tiny but mighty community, as I like to call it, is getting we're not even at the getting comeuppance, but there's enough visibility that it's like, yeah, like I love how you say you're inspired, not happy, right? Because it's like we have the fire in us right now because it's like we finally have a bit of like convergence, right? To feel like we're starting to
yeah.
have a little more um I mean power, but also just like the energy of like we are not alone and we're not being kept completely apart and isolated because when there is a turn of attention from society, even if it's partial and even if we're still at risk and all those things, it means that we can start doing things like this, right? Like where we're gonna, art is essential. That is another thing that this year has made so clear. There's amazing, Toni Morrison is one of my favorite quotes on that, but like this year has made that an action, right? So like your making in the world, my making in the world, like all of the, ways that voices and art getting amplified, now on another level is it matters, right? Just like you're saying, your documentary needs to be out there. Like the voices and the people who are coming to this virtual table with us next Wednesday, all of those stories.
All right. Yes, yes. It happens.
It
And
happened.
Instagram will do that to
I
you.
know, right? So, uh, yeah. So, I mean, just I feel the way that it's like the exponential, right? And whether we're talking about legislation or the art that we're making, but how essential it is that we are starting to have more space to whatever the forms are that we're making to bring it into the world, right? And so I feel like this unique moment of having this workshop where we're going to get to make behind the scenes with each other and a group of people who've never come together before are coming together and
Yes.
like how powerful is that
Definitely.
to feel that we're
Yeah.
doing that like right now in the middle of all that is stirred up, right? And yeah, so beautiful. And I do want to just say, like, again, anyone who's listening, that we have a few spots left. So if you want to join Dee and I and Cody Brunel Potter, the dancer in residence from Invertigo Dance Theater, we are having this Walk the Walk workshop next Wednesday, Transgender Day of Visibility, at 5:30 p.m. we do have actually a commission to offer people for your creative presence, basically. We wanted to really value people's time and presence. And the link is in our bio. So we are still taking a few more applications. And yeah, we'll be telling stories. We're going to be finding ways to move that hopefully aren't too awkward. I think we're going to have, some fun and some play inside of also facing the realness and the struggles and get to make
Yeah,
something. People
there's
keep
gonna be
at,
some tears,
yeah, some tears, some
some
laughter.
tears,
Yeah.
some laughter, all of it.
Yeah, totally. And some people keep asking like, what are we going to be doing? And I'm like, I mean, we know we have some structure, but like the reality is it's also going to come from the group. Like we will have space for our stories solo. We will have space for us to share stories together. We are going to have ways that you will get to move your body, and there might be a little space for some drag and some music. We've got, let me just say, we've got DJ Licious right here in the form of D.Hill. So there will be some music.
Who was that?
Oh, wait, who dat? So yeah, so join us if you feel it. Also, we will be doing another workshop in June, and this one is going to help teach us what that next one will be. But yeah, do you have any thoughts you want to shout out to the people that are out there, Dee, about this moment and this workshop and joining us or
I
following
mean,
us?
just be ready. Yes, just be ready for the workshop to have an enlightened moment and an inspirational moment. And that's one of the great things about this platform being virtual. I think we're going to do this right. Zoom, yes, we're going to do this Zoom
Zoom,
style
zoom,
for
zoom.
the workshop. But we're going to zoom it through. But we're going to, in the process of zooming through the workshop, I mean, it's going to be so amazing in the fact that we're all coming together to do something when we really feel like we can't during this time. So social distance or the screen, creating some distance, get that out the way. Just know that you have a safe place and a fun place to be you. And that's what it's about. And we need more of these places and spaces and things to happen. So it's going to be exciting to um, organically let it come together.
Hmm.
Because remember, um, one of the things about getting together as a group is that, and being in unison, is that we all have to be in agreement. So why would we put out there what exactly it's going to be when it takes you to be a part of it to make it? So I am excited about the workshop in that regards of what we're going to create, and of course what love is going to come out and inspiration is going to come out at the end. So
Right,
can't wait.
right on.
Wednesday it is.
Me too.
Wednesday it
Yeah,
is.
right on. Well, yeah, thank you. I did want to end on that note of trans love that you and Cody and I talked about earlier today. And we definitely can use more love in the world, right? And I think like these practices of learning to love ourselves more fully, right into those shadowed corners inside where we've been taught to hate ourselves or we've been taught to hide or whatever. And and then also like literally developing like collective community love practices. And I feel like we've already got that started, the three of us. So we're really really blessed and looking forward to like actually calling that in with the incredible group of people who are assembling. So yeah, so a shout out to Invertigo Dance Theater. What an incredible place. Love my peeps at Invertigo, and thank you for all of the mad support and love from Dave, Rosa, Laura, Sana, um, Chelsea, our staff, and then our dancers and the teaching artists as well. So quite a blessing, and Dee, so happy to be in a conversation with you that is deepening by the day. Um, yeah, and I guess I will say as a last thing that there's a whole other thing happening tomorrow. I have a Cosmos digital dance party. That's Cosmos with a Q, because who needs a U when you got a Q? And
Yes, yes,
and so
yes, yes, yes.
yes. So D, it's our second one, and D is DJ number 2. I'm so excited for you to be spinning tomorrow night. If anyone wants info on that, it is the Cosmos, but spell it with a Q and no U. So the Cosmos at Gmail. Just pop me an email and I'll give you the information. But yeah, we'll be dancing tomorrow night as well for that. And yeah, let's just keep it going, D. And thank you. Bump it, bump it, bump it. I see you.
Yeah, let's keep going
Yeah.
and keep this.
For real. Yeah, thanks, Dave. I see you. Right back at you. So
Much love, everybody in the chat. Thank you.
circuits of love, right? So, well, look at us. We just rounded that out to a full hour of a conversation, D, and I'm not sure, I'm not surprised. And we just actually did the tip of the iceberg. So,
I was like, if you want to stay with for another 30 minutes,
right.
another hour, we can do
We can go
that.
there. Yeah, totally. Yeah. So, and one more thanks to the City of West Hollywood for the Trans Arts Initiative grant, for even having a grant for trans arts. And not because we're coming from a place of scarcity at all, because we are ready for more, but we are grateful for that, because it is supporting you and I to be right here in conversation, and for Invertigo to back our trans non-binary selves up, right? So yeah.
Yes.
So big love out there to
We know.
everybody. Yeah.
Love you.
Yeah. So we look forward to seeing whoever shows up on Wednesday. It is you do have to apply. So we don't just have an open link out there. So do apply if you want. Again, the link is in the bio. And otherwise we'll let y'all know about what's coming up after we are in that space, that magical space next week, of realness. So Dee, so much love to you, my friend, and thank you for being in this flowy, organic, very real space with me.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And I'll see you tonight.
Until next.
See you at 8:00.
Good night.
Good night. Thanks, everybody. Be well. Peace. Stay safe.